Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new video. Today, I'm going to be breaking down why the Republicans will win the 2022 midterm elections, why the polls are wrong, and why the red wave will grow as we get closer to the actual elections. So, you've seen this before. This is the 538 polling average that says, oh, Democrats are gaining, Republicans are losing, they're not going to win. Oh, the red wave is dead, Democrats are going to win, blah, 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 all that crap. No. First of all, I'm sorry, 538's model is not accurate, especially for their polling averages. They include garbage polls and then don't allow actual accurate polls in their averages. Similar issues with Real Clear Politics. RCP's average is a bit more accurate. As you can see, they do tend to be a bit better. They're still not great, but you've seen this polling average from 538, which is just extremely bad. Like, having Democrats ahead right now is ridiculous. Most of these polls as well that they have are garbage. Like the ones they're currently including that have Democrats ahead, if you look at all of these, they're all adults or registered voter polls, except for one of them here, which only has Democrats ahead by 2, and then these 2 likely voter polls, which both have Republicans ahead. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in this video because I've been saying I will for a while, but likely voter polls are more accurate than registered voter polls. The reason for that is a registered voter poll is polling registered voters. Okay, yeah, you'd think, okay, they're voting. No. The issue is that's just registered voters. There's no guarantee they're going to vote. Likely voters includes enthusiasm to some extent within its polling. It includes people who are actually likely to vote, hence likely voters. These are people who will actually vote. They're more likely to go out and vote than just registered or all adults, which is an even worse metric, which is a ridiculous way to do a poll. And another issue with some of these polls here as well, YouGov is just a horrible pollster. It's not an accurate pollster. It never really has been. And even here, so we have Real Clear Politics. Their polling averages do look better, but even then, they're not very good. Like one of the worst ones on here. This one and this one right here. Both Democrat ahead. Actually, this one as well. Both of the Democrats are ahead in all of these by 5, 6, and 4. That makes no sense. That is just completely inaccurate. But then you look and you see it's a registered voter poll. Just because they're registered doesn't mean they're going to vote. You have to consider enthusiasm. And right now, enthusiasm is Republicans. The Republicans have the enthusiasm advantage, which is going to help going into the midterms. And if Biden continues with his gaffes like the latest speech, that is going to really help Republicans a lot. And again, looking back, we even saw this in 2014. We saw polling was not absurdly accurate here, and even Fox News. Fox News is actually more or less a more left-wing pollster, but they got more accurate the closer we got to the election. These polls are all likely voter polls, but they all got much closer the closer you got to the election, and even then, their polling averages underestimated Republicans by about 2.3 or 3 something percent. That's something to consider. Polling averages are not accurate, even if you do them accurately. A lot of the time, they seem to underestimate Republicans, and we know because this happened in the past. The 2014 midterm elections, Republicans, yes, they got 5.7 as their final generic polling ballot average, even though they were down for quite a while in these polls. They ended up winning a very large margin. They had multiple gains in the House, the Senate, and the governorships. So, again, this is going to be very similar to 2014, I'd imagine. And I think fairly similar happened in 2010 here. Polling averages were very much in favor of Republicans here. This one, a little different, but overall, Republicans were down for a while. And then they went ahead the closer they got to the election. And this is the thing. This will likely happen the closer we get to November. But I decided to do a little bit of the work myself, taking the most recent polls from the RCP polling averages. I just took the most recent ones and I averaged them out to give you what the likely voter polls, the accurate ones, and the registered voter polls would look like. Again, likely voter polling is more accurate, registered voter polling is not. And as you can see, Republicans actually have a 2.75% advantage with 46%. That is the actual generic ballot right there. That is what the actual results will more closely resemble when we get to November. The likely voter polling is more accurate. As I've mentioned, I've explained why. In the end, right now, Republicans are leading that. That is a more important metric than registered voter polling, which has Democrats ahead by 2.5. That's not going to be right in the end of the day. But this is what Democrats and leftists and the media are using to excuse their idea that, oh, there's this blue tsunami coming. Oh, the red wave is dead. There's not going to be anything going for the Republicans. They're going to lose. They're going to lose the House. They're going to lose the Senate. They're going to lose the governorships. No, I'm sorry. You're wrong. And this is exactly why you're wrong. I even have some more evidence here. This is, again, the more recent Rasmussen poll. This is part of why showing the trends are starting to shift back in Republican favor, even despite how inaccurate some of these polls actually are. But Rasmussen, I'd still say, is one of the more accurate pollsters. So they had a recent poll, 2,500 likely voters. That's a good sign. The margins were actually more Democrats than Republicans by about 2 points. And then there was a good amount of independents, 2% margin of error. Independents broke 40% to Democrats, 32% for the Republicans, a 8-point margin. That is massive. Independents do make up a very large portion of the voting bloc, and overall, that will have an impact on what the results will look like. Independent support is where Republicans are going to win, and again, you have to also consider Republicans are more enthused, so even if Democrats say, oh yeah, well, we're going to vote for the Democrats, it doesn't mean they're actually going to. Now, Republicans also won the generic congressional ballot here by 4 points. That is a sizable margin. And again, polls do generally underestimate Republicans, so that could potentially be upwards of 6%. Again, it is a margin of error of 2%. This is the thing. As soon as we get to about, I'd say, late October, I do think Republicans will be even further ahead in the polls. But here, this is some more proof. A lot of polling had the Georgia Senate election. They said it was over. It was already pretty much over. Warnock was doing better. He was ahead in most of the polls. Republicans can't win. But as we're pivoting away from the primary season into the actual general election season, we see that polling trends are starting to shift back more and more towards Republicans. This is what happens. This has happened in 2010 and 2014, as I showed you here. This is the thing. The polling trends will likely, in the end, lead to Republicans actually gaining and winning. As you can see, Herschel Walker is now leading in multiple different polls, and Warnock can't win almost anything. Like, he can't win a poll if he tried at this point, and he's outspending Walker 3-1. But this is the thing. Republicans very much have this election. These midterms are there for them to lose. But even that being the case, despite how pathetically bad they can be at times and how easily they stumble and fumble the most important and lucrative things, they still likely will win. Yeah, there's issues with the Republican establishment as a whole, but there are many great candidates that are running and will likely win, despite the establishment working to completely subvert their chances. But again, this is the thing. Polling overall, like I said, an R2.75 margin. I do think in the end that will be a more likely margin for the 2022 generic ballot. And with that being the case, Republicans would take back the House. They would take the Senate. I'd say by about 3 extra seats. It'll be a 53-54 to the Democrats' 46-47 margin. And the governorship elections, most of the toss-up ones, I'd say all of the toss-up ones go Republican, and then some of the other ones will get a little closer. So that's the video. I think that is why Republicans will win the midterms. That's why the red wave is not dead and will grow going into the midterms coming into November. If you agree with my breakdown, if you like this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. Let me know down below what you thought. Comment. Anyways, that's all for now. I hope you guys have a good night.